Want to welcome everybody to our first Dream Job webinar of 2025. My name is Danny Rubin, and I'm the founder of our company, educational company Rubin. We provide employability skills resources to schools and students across the country. And one way we discuss employability skills is by talking to professionals in different fields. And today we are pleased to have Dr. Lisa Rollins with us from Educators Rising, PDK Educators Rising. And she's out and about in the country doing what she does, which we're going to learn all about. And I'm grateful she's made time for us today to learn all about her journey from the classroom to now making an impact nationally on students and educators in a really unique way. And so we thank you very much for being here. And what we'll do today for our session is Dr. Rollins will first describe her background and her journey so far, and then we'll start to really get into her day and what it looks like in her work. And along the way, I'll encourage the teachers and students to submit their own questions in the Zoom room, and we will have a nice dialogue all about the various ways to work in education. And Dr. Rollins, right before I bring you in, I just want to welcome anybody else who just joined us. I see some new names in the list. Please say hello in the chat and tell us what part of the country you're in and what class you're using our webinar for today. All right, so with that, Dr. Rollins, I'll have you give a short bio of your journey so far, and we'll dive in from there.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm super excited to be here. There's nothing I love more than careers in education. I came out of the womb knowing I wanted to become a teacher.
Wow.
And not everybody knows that, but I knew it at a very, very young age. I believe in kindergarten. I was already becoming best friends with my kindergarten teacher and trying to be the class leader. And so I knew from a very young age. But when I graduated college, there were no teaching jobs available in Michigan for me. I went to Michigan State University and there were no teaching jobs. I couldn't find a teaching job in family and consumer sciences, which is my passion. I'm a FACS teacher, CTE teacher at heart, and there were no teaching jobs. And so there was a teacher shortage in Maryland, and I took a position at the 19th largest district in the nation, Prince George's County, Maryland, and ran the child development and ed professions and became the CTE lead there over all of cosmetology, barbering, fashion, interior, culinary, and was there for 9 years. And I started the Teacher Academy of Maryland there. It was a 4-year pathway for future educators, and wrote the curriculum for that. Then I transferred to the Arizona Department of Education to oversee family and consumer science programs of education and training. So I oversaw ECE and ed profession courses in Arizona. And part of that job was the state director of Educators Rising Arizona. And I knew a little bit about Educators Rising from my work in Maryland, and we were just getting it started and getting it off the ground when I made my career change there. But once I dove into Educators Rising Arizona and became the state director, I fell in love immediately and said, how can I make more of an impact than, Arizona only? And so I was given the opportunity to go from the state level to the national level about 3 years ago. And so now currently I am the National Director of Outreach and Partnerships for PDK International, whose premier program is Educators Rising. So I oversee the Department for Educators Rising curriculum and resources for teachers.
Amazing. Truly, what a great journey from kindergarten, knowing that you had an interest in education, all the way to running outreach for a national organization, with that common thread being education all the way through. You never stepped out of the industry. You kept finding new ways to work in the industry and reach more and more people, which I'm sure gives you a lot of satisfaction, does it not? To know that every move you make, every meeting you're in, impacts students broadly across the
Yeah,
country.
100%. I mean, I think even when I went from my teaching role to working for the Department of Ed, it was like, how can I help more teachers? How can I help more teachers inspire more students? And in the same vein, I will never stop being a teacher. I currently still am adjunct faculty at 2 universities. I write curriculum for 2 universities. So I'm still embedded in the aspect of teaching, but I think there are so many careers. I mean, if I were to list all of my roles from kindergarten to now, They've all been in education. They've all been advancing my career, but they've all been something that I was just really passionate about, and I want to do more. I always want to do more. I want to help teachers more.
Clearly, your job history would speak. If I looked at the resume, I'd say this is someone who always says, "Where's the next challenge?
Yeah.
What's out there in front of me?" And I'm on the Educators Rising site, and I just if for the educators here, if they want more information, I see their start a program.
Yeah.
So where would you direct them on the site if they want to inquire about starting a chapter or a program or just getting more involved? How can they navigate the site?
Yeah, absolutely. So you would want to start with start a program, and also I'll throw in the chat two email addresses that get immediate responses. If you're interested, we have info@educatorsrising.org that you can reach out to for chapter support, membership support. If you need resources, you can reach out to community@educatorsrising.org. And our website has tons and tons of information about where we already are. So the map that you're showing there of the United States down just a little bit shows that we have a presence in all 50 states, and we have state affiliation agreements with 38 states. So if your state is not in dark blue, you can work with me to get a state affiliation set up, and then we can turn you to dark blue. Or we can help to expand the presence that we already have in your state if you're not a state affiliate.
Well, thank you. So yeah, when you can think about it, throw those email addresses in the chat and we'll let everybody know how they can get involved. So, all right. Well, as we start to kind of get through your career history and really get into the work you're doing today, I want to now encourage teachers and students to go to the Q&A along the bottom of Zoom, and I want you to put your questions. And I want you, when you put your question, to put your name and your school so we can give you credit for your question. We love having students ask questions live in our sessions. That's what makes them unique, that we're talking to professionals live and you can get your question answered right then and there. So, all right, you started knowing you loved education from kindergarten. Let's start by going back to the classroom. What did you learn in the classroom? What skills did you obtain as an educator that you still use today, even though you're not in the classroom every day? What did you learn then that you've carried with you?
I want to back up for 1 second and talk to the kids who don't know from kindergarten what they want to do.
Sure, sure.
Because what I've learned along the way, and just like you said, there's careers in education you would never think are under the field, the umbrella of education, right? I just met with a college student a couple of days ago who said, I work for the College of Education marketing department. So I'm a marketing student, but I have to learn the education components, the education language, who is my audience, like they had to learn about the education field to be a marketer, even though they had all the marketing skills already. So even our students and, FBLA and all of the other CTSOs that support different areas of CTE, you can still work in the field of education. So I just want to say that to any student who doesn't know. My brother and I often have this conversation. He never thought about what he wanted to do growing up, and I always knew. And that's okay to not know. But what I love about education and especially CTE and Ed Rising is we explore all careers in education. So it's not, and I say just a teacher, but it's not that we have shortages in bus drivers and cafeteria workers. There's clearly a marketing role. How do social media people that work for school
IT.
districts, IT, like there are so many careers in education that students just don't know about. So
Yep.
if you don't know what you want to do, my best advice is, especially in CTE, take a culinary class. Do you like that? Take a welding class, take an education class. You might explore something that you never even knew was an option. So that is my thought on the people who don't know what they want to do. And now for the skills.
Yes.
I would say organization was my number one transferable skill from college. Even sorting lesson plans and into units and communication. And I will say that classroom management was another one where a lot of the skills transferred from my collegiate into my professional. But skills I use every day, I think number one is communication. It's got to be clear communication. It's got to be clear written and verbal communication. and making sure that your questions are clear. And then when you're responding to somebody, you're answering all of the points that maybe are in their email or in their question or on their phone call. Taking really good notes was huge for me in college. I still have some portfolios from college of work that I submitted and things that I did, because just taking really good notes was helpful, and it's helpful to go back and see those notes too. Those would be my skills that I would say for kids right now.
Great. I want to dig a little bit more on what you just said because we talk a lot. Our company, we teach employability, we teach communication, and we also, and I talk about this all the time in our webinars, we teach the power of follow-up questions. So when if you're an intern or if you're on a job shadow and the employer says something interesting, ask more about it. Show that you're really paying attention. So you said that communication is a big part of the skills you've taken with you along the way, even so far as being good at replying to emails, being clear about what you're asking for. Can you give an example of like when you're in a back and forth in an email exchange or you're relaying action items to somebody, what does it mean to be really clear in how you give out direction or how you answer people? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, to me, I think it goes back to my teaching, as I want to give everybody the most amount of information without being overwhelming. Things that I find that are helpful when I need something from somebody or I have questions is to either number the questions or bullet the questions so that they're separated. I find that a lot of verbiage in one email is overwhelming, and at that point, it should just be a phone call. Because if there's too much back and forth, just pick up the phone and get clarity on that. But if there's something that I'm asking for from someone else and it's multiple things, or it's a step-by-step process, for my own team, we do a lot of videos. So if there's a new project that we're working on, like I may screen share, record that, and then send that to my team afterwards, because we all know when we're in the training and we're learning something new, we can follow along, but when we have to go do it independently on our own, we're like,
You
oh,
remember, right,
man, what did they say for that
right.
step? Or where was I supposed to save that? Or how was I supposed to name that file? And so having a recording of a big project or something has been helpful for me in terms of teaching people to be independent on a task. I will also say too that if somebody is emailing me and needs something from me, timely responses are important to me, because 9 times out of 10, if somebody is asking me for something, they're waiting to do the next step of their job. If somebody needs a picture of me or a bio of me, that's because they're putting it in a PowerPoint and they can't do their job until they get my
That is a
information.
great, I love how you phrase that. That is exactly right. You're holding back someone else's day by not giving them a confirmation on something or information on something. I
Yeah. And
perfectly
to
stated.
go on that, if I'm traveling, or I know I can't quickly do something in between meetings, I'm always going to ping them back and say, I'm traveling. I'll get this to you as soon as possible, just so they know I've received your message. I'm going to make it a priority when I'm able to. I will get it done, because I think that builds a partnership of trust. You can rely on me to get you what you need, and I will get it to you.
Just trying to, that is exactly right. And it shows leadership. It shows focus, maturity. If you say, I can't do it right now, but I received this message, I'm aware of this message and I'm going to work on it, as opposed to radio silence until you do it 3 days later. And people are like, did they ever answer me?
Right.
And I think just sort of looking at your career history from over here, the fact that you're upfront about communication, you're accountable, you respond time in a timely way. Do you think that demonstrating those skills helped you to position yourself for every new role?
Yeah, I think it's because people know that they can rely on me. I'm going to get the job done. And I think that goes along with problem solving too. I think in education, a lot of times we're told no a lot, whether it's because of funding, because of staffing. I always found a way to make it work. You can tell me no 8 million times. I'm still going to find a way to do what's best for kids at the end of the day, and what's best for teachers, so that that stress level is taken off of them. If there's one more thing I can alleviate. So I'm good at problem solving, but I think that responsiveness and the communication is, it makes you dependable, it makes you reliable, and if you come through on what you say you come through with, then that's another added layer of reliability that's
Yep.
added to you.
And it makes you, if this is a word, promotable.
Yeah,
The students listen. If you show you're a good communicator, then the boss says, this is somebody I want to bring up with me or
right.
promote within or recommend to the next person. Those are the kind of things, even in a hiring process, if you're a good communicator, but they went and hired the boss's nephew, because that's how the world works, but
Right.
they really like you, the boss could think of you for some other job down the street where his or her friend runs a company. So being a good communicator pays off. We have a couple of good questions here from, oh, you want to tack onto that? I didn't want to cut you off.
I did want to just tag into that
Yeah.
about recommendations because it's so important for our students to know that who you know and the work that you do with them will pay off in the end. I had one, two, three positions that I never had an interview for. I got because someone
Mic
else worked
drop,
with me.
mic drop.
I mean, I'm not trying to blow it up, but I will say it's because I worked with them very intimately on a project and they saw my work ethic and they were like, we need her on our team. And I'm the same way, even here at PDK. When I see somebody or I know somebody that I've worked with in the past, I'm going to bring them with me, right? I want to bring the best of the best with me. And then they're also a reflection of their work that I already know. But then they know that I already know them. They're going to do even better because I recognized in them the hard work and I'm going to remember, oh, when I have a position open, I'm reaching out to Lori or Lynette or Mary because they've already done great
Yep,
work for
they've
me.
proven it to you.
Yep.
I think the kids today might say game recognizes game.
They would say that.
They would. And it's true.
It
You
is.
see talent in somebody else and you say, this is what I value in myself and in others. And so I want to surround myself with hardworking, talented people. And I think that is a great goal for all of us to aspire to get as many jobs as we can in our lives without having to interview for them, because it shows you've identified yourself as your own unique brand. And you don't need to be lined up against 10 other people to compete. They say, I just want you because I know who you are. That's great. We have a couple of questions from James Hatter and his students in Redlands, California. I want to combine them, James, into one, but James is asking about trends in education. What trends do you see on the horizon, and how might I mean, it's a huge question about education. Where do you see AI fitting in to education over the next 3 to 5 years? What role should it play? What role might it play at educators rising, or more broadly, how do you see AI fitting in?
Timely question. As I said, I'm also an adjunct professor and just this, AI has been around for a little bit, we know how to use it, but it's got pros and cons, right? Like there are great things that I ask AI and it comes right up. And then there's other things that I'm like, if I wasn't smart enough to know that that's not accurate, what if I just copied and pasted that answer, right? Like we have to use our common sense with AI. We did a really fun icebreaker one time where we interviewed a person that we were with and then we had AI create a song or a poem about that person. That's fun. That's cool. There's good, fun ways to integrate AI into your classes. I think it's great. But just last week, I was, I'm teaching and I'm grading papers and I'm like, this is AI. I know this is AI. Or they have spoken their words and like they didn't take the or the pauses that we naturally say in verbal communication. They didn't take it out of their written work. And so, just going back and being aware, clean things up. If you are going to use it um, correct, use it in the right way. And then, I think it can be helpful in a lot of different areas. It can be helpful in getting, some statistics or some data. But again, keep in mind, use your common sense. If it doesn't seem like it makes sense, don't rely on that.
Did you know that what a student submitted to you was written by AI? What gave it away?
There were just little pieces of words that we also run a similarity report, so a plagiarism report, and a lot of it doesn't show up from AI just yet, but it'll come from other sources that AI may have pulled it from. So that's always an indicator. But my number one was the verbiage that it just didn't sound like my student, right? Like, and if you in education, you start to know your students and you start to know how they write and how they communicate. It was just a glaring red flag to me. So just,
What was the recourse there? Did you have to sit with them and say, like, what do you do in those situations?
well, it depends on the level. If it's straight up plagiarism from other sources or if it was a summary. Those are different scenarios. So it's basically, just a, hey, do you need any help? Because a lot of times I've noticed it's time that students haven't prepared enough time to get the assignment done. And then they're like, oh, it's due today. And so they reach out to AI for some, quick supports and help and some information. And so it's really just, hey, are you okay? Were you not going to finish on time? Do you need an extension? Like, I'd really love for you to take a little bit more time on this. Now, if it's straight up plagiarism, like that's a whole nother university discussion, but most of the times it's just me reaching out and being human and saying, hey, like, do you need help? Is there something that, you couldn't find in our class resources that you had to go to AI for, or was it time?
Yeah. Okay. I like that. It seems like a fair approach with those kinds of submissions. A question from Jacqueline Burdett and her students in Covington Middle School in Virginia. She says, your enthusiasm is great. And okay, I know you are still in the classrooms as an adjunct, but what made you want to leave the CTE classroom and then take a role that was not in the classroom with students every day? What was that decision point? Did you struggle with that decision when you made it? Think back to that time when you left the classroom from every day.
Well, I think too, we have to take into an account everybody's personal lives too, right? So I, married, I have a stepson, and the opportunity, we had family in Arizona, and the opportunity opened up. But I will say that I distinctly remember the day I had to tell my students that I was leaving, and there were tears. I mean, I knew they loved me, but I did not know, like, one student just left the classroom. She was like, I'm done. And I was like, no, babe, like, we got to talk this out. It's not, I think they took it so personal. And I was like, you have to understand that I have a family and I have to do what's best for my family too.
Mm.
So that personal weighed a little bit on my decision. However, I will say my main decision was when I saw the job posting, I said, was this job written for me? I get to oversee all the ECE and all the ed professions because I remember I was working at a county. So I went from a
Right.
county to now a whole state. And my brain said, I can help so many more teachers
Mm.
if I can help the whole state. If the whole state is something that I'm focused on, I can help them. And I've already been teaching this for 8 to 9 years. So I can give them the tips and the tricks, the things that I failed at, the things that I succeeded at, so that they don't have to go through the same struggles that I went through in getting a program up and running. Or maybe they can teach me some things that are specific to Arizona that weren't specific to my county in Maryland. But it was my number one goal was how can I help more people? And that was the same reason why I left Arizona to go to the national level, because my passion for education is so deep that I want others who are in it to not leave because of the stress, because I never left of the stress. Yes, there were stressors. Yes, there was paperwork. Yes, there was all those things, but the joy of being with my kids every day outweighed any of that stress. And I also coached softball and I coached soccer and I was helping with homecoming committees. And like I was embedded in that community. Like I'm the teacher who was wearing the Spirit Week pajama day. I'm the teacher who was at the pep rallies. I wanted the kids to see me and know I'm here for all of it. I'm here for what, and I had a student that said, I don't even know how to play softball, but I don't want to go home at night. Come join my team. You're safe with me every day from 3 to almost 9 p.m. every day, whether it's a game or practice. Any reason for them to be safe and to want to be engaged in school and after school activities, anything I could do to help that. But yeah, my number one reason was merely to help more people. I always want more help.
Well, oh, you said in there, there's a lot of little things. I was curious. I think we all remember a teacher or two who really impacted us. We look back on our time in grade school, college, but what do you think it is that when you had said you're leaving and a student walked out, like what do you think it was in your relationship with the students that made the student have that kind of emotional attachment and emotional reaction? Like what cultivates that in a teacher?
Well, I'll tell you that particular student and that particular class was my hardest class, which is the irony.
Why?
And I know all teachers are going to feel me on this, but when you start a school and you're the new teacher and you get well, Mrs. Benjamin didn't do it that way, and I'm just here learning, and they were hard on me. They didn't want to do their work. They didn't want to. And there was a breakthrough moment. Um, they were hard on me till probably Thanksgiving. And so anytime I have some free time and I write a book, I'm going to name my book Don't Smile Till Thanksgiving, because I didn't crack with them. I didn't let them run me over, but every day was hard. And when we finally had this breakthrough moment around like October, November, um, I think it was because they had never felt seen or felt heard. They were just
Mm,
told what to do. And so
mm.
we had a lot of time in class about reflective practices and why the kids at the preschool were behaving certain ways and what at-home factors. And I think a lot of my kids realized some of their at-home factors were impacting their academic achievement. And so this student in particular, she actually did write me a letter before I left and just expressed that I was the first teacher that she felt she could talk to.
Mm.
And so I think it's, again, we always talk about creating a safe space, creating a safe learning environment, but sometimes it's breaking down those barriers to get to that safe place. And sometimes it's just remaining firm. My motto of teaching is firm but fair. I'm going to follow policy. I'm going to follow district policy. I'm going to follow school policy because that's my job first and foremost. But I'm going to do, what's fair for all. It might not be that you get to go to the bathroom every 5 minutes and you don't, because you might have a 504 and you might need to go to the bathroom every 5 minutes. And I would teach my kids, you don't know what's going on with Lynette. So that's between me and Lynette. It's not that it's unfair to you by me saying no. And I use that as a learning moment of how they can then be kind and compassionate with the kids that they're about to teach in the future.
As a follow-up to that, I I love what you said about, and I'm sure, teachers, raise your hand if you've had that hard class that you had to work to Thanksgiving or later to sort of get through to them. Now that you're not in that environment every day, shaping young minds directly, how do you try to bring that spirit and those values into your role today, since I wouldn't say disconnected, that's the wrong word, but you're not there, right? The student in Arizona or Louisiana or Washington, they can't come and talk to you. But how do you try to infuse your work with that mentality so it'll help teachers down below you?
Yeah, I meet with a lot of teachers now, and I also still make sure, even in this role, that I'm connected with the students. I use our Ed Rising students on a lot of our webinars, a lot of panels that I host, feature students, because Educators Rising is a career and technical student organization for those interested in education for both middle and high school chapters. And so we're student led. There's student leadership. You can be a local chapter officer, a state officer, a national officer, a student ambassador. There's all of these leadership opportunities for kids. And so when I meet with the teachers, like, I always look for their inspirational students and I try to invite them to speak. And then my inspiration now is, the teachers. I know what it's like to teach this class. I know what it's like to not have the resources that you need. I know what it's like to have to write the 4-year curriculum, and I don't want you to have to do that. I want you to take our curriculum and our resources so that you have something. We would never send a welder out into their job without a welding helmet, but yet and still we'll put a teacher in a classroom without a curriculum or a lesson plan
Right. All the time.
all the time. So mine is to reduce the barriers and the stress for the teacher so that they can have more of those interpersonal moments and create that culture. And they're not spending all their time on lesson planning or finding resources or the latest article or that link is broken or that video has been taken down. I want to give this to you so that that is taken off of your plate and you can have those relationships with kids more.
Thank you. One more question from James and his students. How important is collaboration among teachers and schools to share best practices in CTE? How does collaboration fit into your day-to-day?
Collaboration is everything, right? Why reinvent the wheel? Someone out there has a lesson plan on a culinary lab for this week. Don't reinvent the wheel. There's tons of Facebook groups for CTE teachers and for CTSOs. There's tons of shared resources. I will say, as a former CTE chair, there's typically maybe one teacher per school for some of our CTE areas. Like, there's one fashion teacher, one that did both fashion and interior design. There were 2 culinary teachers. So sometimes CTE teachers feel like they're on an island by themselves, and that's very real. So if you feel like that, or there's only a couple of you in your district or your county, that is real, but there are national networks. There are national professional organizations for English teachers, social studies teachers, science teachers. Ed Rising for education teachers. And we often know that our education teachers are teaching something else too. Oftentimes they're not a full-time ECE or an ed professions teacher. They're also teaching AP history or English. So making sure that they have the resources and collaborating with others to get the resources that you need is important. Collaboration is everything. You know, reaching out, there is no shame in asking for help. I want every student to ever hear me, and students sometimes have a hard time asking for help, but I'm here to tell you,
Helps too.
help. Just, hey, I need help, or hey, I don't
Yeah.
understand, or can you explain it again? Just ask for help.
Yep. And ask for help, ask for more information, ask what you don't understand. It's not a weakness. And I want to, a couple more people had said hello in the chat. I want to just make sure I say hello, Mary Mahoney, Williams Technical College in Louisiana, and Sherry Freeland from Southern Regional Technical College in Bainbridge, Georgia. Thank you for being here and commenting. All right, so let's head for home here, Dr. Rollins. And my question for you, you've done a lot in education from the classroom to the national organization. What's next? Do you have I don't want to make you speak out loud in front of your boss or anything, but like what else do you want to accomplish in this space with students and teachers? Like what's in front of you?
You know, that's a really good question. I've already accomplished my educational goals and got my doctorate by the time I was 35. So that was my number one goal, was to get my doctorate. And just for the students out there, like, you don't have to go get your doctorate. It was something that I wanted to do because I wanted to be a professor in higher ed as my end goal. So I'm some ways from retirement, but I would say, you know, Ed Rising is where my heart is. I don't see myself leaving ever. I think that this will take me into my retirement, and my retirement goal would be to be adjunct faculty or a full-time professor or even a visiting professor in a college of ed to help future teachers. I did work with an education program at an Institute of Higher Ed, and I just love the excitement of higher ed and teaching those method classes. Right now I teach master's courses in curriculum and instruction, and I love that part. So that would, my end goal would probably be to be a retired professor, but PDK is, you know, I just believe so much in our program and I've seen it change lives. I have currently 3 kids right now off the top of my head in Arizona teaching in the district that they went to high school with, that were students, Ed Rising students under me. So I know the program works and I see their success. And so that's really where my passion is. And, you know, unless there's I've already been promoted here at PDK, unless there's another promotion down the road. I see this is my end goal before retirement.
Well, there's nothing wrong with wanting to climb the ladder, and there's nothing wrong with being happy where you are.
A
They're
hundred.
both they're both correct. And I think, you know, for a teacher who wants to go through their career in the classroom, beautiful career, no right or wrong. And today was just to help students see the many roles you could play in and around education.
Yeah.
And having that classroom training is obviously the best place to start. And that's been your case.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, honestly, when you say, you know, being a classroom teacher, that was my end goal. I never ever, and you know, until life happens, I never once was like, I'm never going to leave the classroom.
Right.
Like, that was it for me. So I think that's admirable for teachers
Completely. It's
who go,
some of the most important work in our
yeah,
country
it
every
really is.
day. Teachers never get the full credit that they deserve for the role they have to play, not just as a teacher, but as a confidant, a counselor, another parent, all of the emotion and all of it beyond just the core subjects. So, Dr. Rollins, I want to thank you for your time, wonderful insights. Thank you, Laura Crespo, for sign language. Thank you to the teachers and students for your wonderful questions. As always, I hope you've seen, everybody, that we have a wonderful slate of webinars coming up this spring. Our next one, I believe it's February the 11th. And yes, February 11th, I'm pretty sure. And we're going to be talking to a certified nursing assistant at a sort of senior living, assisted living facility. And we go into a rocket launch director from NASA, and a dietitian, and a TV news reporter for the Today Show. Really, really cool people coming down the way in February, March, and April. So keep an eye on your emails. Please tell other teachers in your district about our webinars. Invite them to. and any of your national organizations, put our links out there so more of you can join. Thank you again for being here. Thank you, Dr. Rollins. And we will see you in February. Have a great day.